In this video, we are going to walk through a coding solution to the classic Outside Click Dropdown React technical interview question. So let's jump in. So in this question, we are required to build a dropdown that closes when a user clicks outside. So we start with the menu closed. Clicking the button toggles the menu open or closed. When the menu is open, we listen for the clicks using the mouse down on the whole document. If the click target is not inside the dropdown, close the menu, and then remove the event listener during cleanup to avoid leaks or duplicate listeners. We want to render the menu items passed through the items prop in the same order. And as always, do not edit any of the data test ID attributes on any element as they are used for testing. So if I hop into solution mode, I can click the menu, you can see it opens, I can click it again, it closes, and if I click it open and then click on any of the items, it does nothing, but then if I click outside it, it closes. So that's the logic we need to implement. And so if I exit solution mode, if I click on the menu, nothing happens. If I click outside it, nothing happens. So we've got to hook up that logic now. So let's jump into the code. So in our app.js, again, we have some basic Tailwind styling, and we are rendering the dropdown component, and we are passing it two props, label, which is menu, and then items, which is an array of strings, simply profile, settings, and logout, and they are going to act as our menu items for this. So looking at our dropdown component here, we have a div with data test ID dropdown, and then we have a button, which is the toggle button, that simply renders that label. And so this button will be then used, obviously, to trigger the dropdown. So I think the first thing we need to do is to create some state. And so I think we'll call this open. And so this will be a Boolean flag that determines whether the dropdown menu is visible, if it's true, or hidden, false. So I can say const open set open equals use state, and then the default value will be false. And then I can import that from React like so. And then I think the next thing we'll need is a ref. This ref object will be used to hold a reference to the dropdown's DOM element, so that outside click logic. So we can check if the ref.current.contains the event.target of where the click was to decide if a click happened inside or outside of that component. I can say const ref equals use ref, and its default value will be null. And I can import that from React. And so now we need to track if a click happens outside of the dropdown. And to do that, we can create a use effect with open in the dependency array. So that will trigger every time the open state changes. So I can say use effect. And then in the dependency array, we can add open. And I can import that from React so we don't get any errors. Use effect. And so the first thing we can do is we can check if it's open. So if open, what we can do then is we can say document. So get access to the document elements of document dot add element listener, and we can add it on the mouse down event, and then we can call it, add a function to that mouse down event. So we'll say handle outside. So we now need to define this function. So I can say const handle outside. And so what this will do is it will take an event, and then it can check. So if ref.current, so this basically checks that the DOM element that the ref has been attached to is in the document. So if that exists and ref.current.contains the e.target, so this is checking that the click happened outside of the element the ref is attached to, well then we can simply say set open to false as the click happened out of the referenced element, which in this case is going to be our dropdown element. So I can say ref equals ref like so. And then the last thing I want to do is have a cleanup. So I can say return. This will be a function. We will say document.remove event listener. And this will take a mouse down event. And then we are removing that handle outside function. Outside function. And so this means that we have a cleanup using the return. So whenever the component unmounts, the event listener is removed. And so then in our button, we can say on click. So what do we want to happen when we click it? Well, we want to toggle the open. So we can say set open. And well, we can get the previous value with the callback function in the set open function, and then we can simply negate it. So if it's open, it'll set it to false, and if it's false, it'll then set it to true. And then lastly, underneath the button, we can render the menu if it's open. So we can say open and then render the JSX that will contain our menu item. So this will be a UL, and it will have a data test ID of menu. So data test ID equals menu, and then I can add some class names. So absolute, so this will position it absolutely relative to our drop down element here, which has relative to it. And then this simply positions it as a white background, some border radius, and a little shadow. And then lastly, within it, I can then map over our items. So I can say items not map, and then for each item in its index, I can then return a list item which has a data test ID of menu item, and the key can be the item. In this case, as we know, they are unique. And then lastly, I can add some class names, so some padding, and then a hover event and cursor pointers so that the user knows it's clickable. And then finally, I can just simply render the item text itself. So if we go back over to our panel, if I click it, oh yeah, sorry, it's not element listener, it's event listener, my bad. So if I change element to event, come here, click it, it opens it. If I click inside it, nothing happens. If I click the button, it closes. If I click it, it opens. And then if I click outside, it closes. So let's run the tests and see if they pass. Perfect, the test pass. Let's run the test suite and see if they pass. Perfect, they all passed. So again, classic interview question, very standard, but it requires, you know, the fundamentals of hooks, event bubbling, and refs. And so the key part is knowing to use a ref to keep track of the DOM element, and then having an event listener hooked up, checking if any click was outside of that DOM element or not. And so this can be especially tough when you have an interviewer staring at you. If you want to try it out for yourself, the link to the question is in the description, and hopefully you got some value out of it. If you did, please like and subscribe and share with a friend. It helps the channel out a lot, and I will see you in the next one.